Computer. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO Radio. And I am so excited. I have a really, really good friend of mine here, amazing doctor, amazing clinician, Dr. Mindy Pelz. And we're going to be talking about what seems to be the favorite subject these days, which is the coronavirus. And one thing I've noticed, Dr. Pelz, is it seems like today things are starting to change. I'm noticing a change in the energy. I think we are over kind of the immediate shock of it, and people are starting to get used to the fact that perhaps we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mindy, introduce yourself to us, and then let's go.
Yeah, no, I actually feel the same way. I feel like there is something amazing that's going to emerge from this moment for the human race. And I think there's a couple of different things that are at play here. One is that because there's no medicine coming to save the day, we have an incredible opportunity to look within us and say, what medicine cabinet's already working for us? What do we already have to fight viruses? What do we already have that's in place that is going to handle this situation? So to answer your question on like, what do I feel about where we sit today, if everybody could just take a deep breath and realize that something incredible is going to emerge here, and we are just witnessing what we can do only personally from an immune system, but the power of slowing down and the power of connecting to people in other ways, but really taking care of the human species is really important right now.
Yeah, it's really true. And it seems like, when chiropractic got out, Mindy and I have both been chiropractors for a long time, me a lot longer than her, but we've known each other for many years, and we've really crossed paths so many times, and we're on a mission right now, which is just amazing, and we're working with some amazing clinicians and doctors and scientists, and it's a rocket ride. But, when chiropractic started back in 1895, there was not a lot of drugs and medicine out there. Most of the medical schools were homeopathic, and then came the drug generation and the oils on all of the sulfa drugs, and they just wiped out all of the body's natural ability, or even the knowledge that the body had an ability to heal itself.
Yep.
And to your point, I think that one of the best things that's going to come out of this is people are going to have to sit down and go, like you said, there's nothing out there to help me but me.
Yep.
And let me get educated. So what you and I want to do today by talking to the people out here on KSCO and the world is give them some ideas on what they can do, what their body is capable of. It's always been able to heal itself.
Yeah. And so last night I did on my YouTube channel, I did a YouTube live on how can we reset our immune system to be able to fight these viruses. And one of the things that I pointed out to people was that if we go back in time and look at the last major epidemic that we had like this, at least in our country, that it was the Spanish flu. And it was a 1918, 1919 time period. What was very interesting about that time in history is that we actually were debating if we needed to approach our health from a vitalistic standpoint or from a mechanistic standpoint. And all the top researchers, all the top doctors, they were split. And the difference between those two ways of looking at our health is in a vitalistic, as you know, is that the body heals itself, that there's an intelligence inside of our body that runs and regulates and controls us. And many people, very, very smart people, felt like that was the stance we needed to take in healthcare, and that our job was the only job of our lives was to support that intelligence. The mechanistic standpoint was no, we need to put something from the outside of us into our body in order for our body to heal. And what ended up happening, and I know you know this because you and I speak the same language, but what ended up happening at that time is that the people who bought into the vitalistic point of view actually had less death rate. There was less deaths with those people going to vitalistic doctors like chiropractors and tapping into a natural healthcare system that supported their own intelligence compared to those that went on medications. And and so chiropractic was really emerging in a huge way in 1918 until penicillin came around. And penicillin came around in the end of the 1920s. And no doubt, I'm not saying that penicillin was an amazing thing, but when it came around, we became a mechanistic healthcare society, and we became obsessed with antibiotics and drugs. And for the last 100 years, we have been putting antibiotics to everything, medication, vaccines, to every problem that we have. And here we sit 100 years later as a human species we can't even make antibiotics anymore because we become antibiotic resistant. We have chronic disease at the highest level possible. We have an opioid crisis because we can't get pain under control. And we are not healthier because we have been buying into this mechanistic point of view. And the time has come for us to step back into vitalism.
Well, you're giving me goosebumps, Mindy, and just to your point on the Spanish flu that was in 1918, I think they did a study out of the 10,000 people that were treated with medicine, there was almost 1,000 deaths. And then if you took the numbers for chiropractic out of 10,000, there were only 25 deaths.
Right.
So the people, and we know, and I did a talk on this the other day, and I think you as well, is when we adjust the upper cervical here, we know we're affecting the vagus nerve, which goes to every organ in our body. It's like an amazing nerve. They still don't even understand how it works yet. But we know that we increase our immune system by 40-something% because of a CD4 T
surge.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So a couple of things, because I'm like, I just want to scream this from the rooftops right now as everybody's in fear. I just see that we are powerful, and we just need techniques like chiropractic and there are a lot of techniques, but chiropractic's an incredible tool for boosting your own immune system. So the two best studies that were done on chiropractic and the immune system, one was done in the 80s on patients that had AIDS. And they took two groups of people. And one group, they gave a traditional chiropractic adjustment. It was to the cervical spine. And then the other group got a sham adjustment. So they thought they were getting an adjustment, but they weren't getting a real chiropractic adjustment. They had them get one adjustment a week. It wasn't that long, over a 6-month period. And what they found is the group that got the traditional chiropractic adjustment had a 48% more CD4 cells than the sham adjustment. The CD4 cells, this is what fights your viruses. That's why they did it on AIDS, because they needed something to help support the viral immune system. Now, it doesn't end there. There was another incredible study done that was done on the thoracic spine, and they wanted to see if you gave a chiropractic adjustment to the thoracic spine, what kind of immune reaction would you have? And they measured it at 20 minutes, an hour, and 2 hours, and beyond. I don't know what the end result was, but they found that a thoracic chiropractic adjustment on asymptomatic people, they didn't have pain, would produce a flood, an increase of interleukin-2 cells, which are the part of the immune system that will go out and start to orchestrate a T cell response, which your T cells are another part of an army that goes out and will fight viruses. And it went on for 2 hours after your chiropractic adjustment.
Wow.
People need to know this.
It's amazing, and it's so, I got goosebumps again. I'm gonna have to go turn the heater on if you keep talking about this, Mindy. But it's amazing, and I've been under chiropractic care for 44 years. And I've probably been sick twice in those 44 years. And I never, until I became a chiropractor 30 years ago and really started to understand the way this worked. It was bizarre because I always got colds. I had asthma. I had all these problems. But when I started to get adjusted, and that most of our patients that have been around, the first thing they're doing is coming in here and getting adjusted.
We were packed this morning. Now, just to this point, we're being systematic about it. We're letting in a few people at a time. We're wiping down tables. We're doing our part. Yeah. But my 80-year-old parents were in today. I am telling people that it is time to get your adjustment, because here's the other thing about the Spanish flu is it came in 3 waves. We're only in the first wave of the coronavirus. So there is going to be a period that this will go away. And my question to people is, what are you going to do? Now is your opportunity to make a decision on how you want to boost your own immune system, because there may be another wave. And sitting at home is not going to keep curing these waves. We have to have some more action item things we can do.
Yeah, and that's great, because both you and I have been talking to our groups about what we can do, and a lot of the things we can go into that they can do to help themselves, but I like to start with what you shouldn't do. So
yeah, that's
often,
a great conversation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we're telling people, oh, the powers that be say stay home. That's it. Well, what else can you do besides stay home? Don't eat ice cream. Don't eat cinnamon toast. Don't eat Wheaties, and don't eat junk food. I mean, anything that turns to sugar, and that's anything processed right now, anything, that's breads, simple starches, pastas, all that stuff, rice, it all turns to sugar so quickly. Viruses love sugar. They can't live on ketones. And you and I have been getting people into doing intermittent fasting and into the ketogenic diet for years now. And I know that my patients that are in ketosis are having a much stronger immune response than the people that don't know what not to eat. So our first conversation should be what not to do. And then we can talk about what to do. Because you can take all the supplements in the world, but if you're not eliminating the poisons, you're done.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have so much to say on that. So for starters, again, my 84-year-old dad was just in here, and he went through all our biohacking tools. He got a chiropractic adjustment. And then I looked at him and I said, Dad, you are not eating ice cream right now. Okay. Cause he loves ice cream. He's like, we always call him like a toddler. He's like, he loves to eat it. He doesn't like when we tell him not to eat ice cream. He goes, oh, really? I'm like, yes, sugar is the biggest immune depressor. You are not eating ice cream right now. He's like, okay, that's good. The second thing I want to say to your ketone point, so I've been down a rabbit hole of research for my patients right now, because I really want to put empowerment back into our hands. We can be in control. We don't have to live in fear through this. And one of the studies I found was showing that ketones, when you have the presence of ketones in your bloodstream, it activates a very specific T cell. It's called a gamma delta T cell that is, you don't normally activate in just normal living. Ketones activate it, and this is a very specific part of the immune system that fights viruses in the respiratory system in our lungs. So we should be going into ketosis right now. We should be trying to get ketones so that we can also be protecting our lungs. So there's so much we can do. There's so much we can do.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you take a look at, you mentioned this earlier, and the study, I think, is from the University of Michigan, that 81 million Americans have multiple chronic diseases. 1/3 of our children have a chronic disease. And that has so much to do with what we've been putting into our body, what we've trained our children to put into our body. So, when we go back, we'll talk about the ketogenic diet again, and whether it's appropriate for people right now and how to get them ready to do that. Because we don't want people to jump into it and make themselves sick and do it wrong.
That's right.
There's some training that both of you and I do on that. But, the main thing is to get people to really take a look at what they're eating and stop putting that in their body. Don't snack. Try to get yourself to 3 meals a day, and with very little starch, if any, and start to drink water. And now we can talk about some of the supplementation that we can recommend.
On the ketogenic and the fasting thing, I think now's the time to learn fasting. If you haven't learned it, you have great resources like your Stenomics class, where you teach people how to fast. Now's the time to learn how to fast, because fasting can tap into the intelligence. Now, on that fasting topic, what I've been telling people in the research that I have found, and this is my own personal research, there may be other fasting experts out there that say something different, but in the shorter fasts, intermittent fasting, 24-hour fasting, we are seeing good results with powering up the immune system for bacteria and for viruses. But for viruses, we actually are not seeing as good of evidence showing that like a 3 to 5 day water fast, when the blood sugar goes down too long for too many days, it can actually suppress the viral immune system.
Huh.
So I'm encouraging everybody to do intermittent fasting, 24-hour fasts. And if you feel like you want to go into a longer fast, now would be the time for like a bone broth fast,
Yeah.
because it would support your gut. That would help with your overall immune health, because your gut has that piece, but you won't get your blood sugar too low. That would suppress that viral immunity.
That's really great information. It's like, I think that as we start to learn about, one of the things that you and I run into is people hear about the ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting. They go on the internet, they look it up, and they do something, and they either get themselves sick or they give up, and they don't really get the benefit of it. But let's go back to the beginning. And this is, by the way, Dr. Duncan McCollum. I have Dr. Mindy Pelz here. We've been friends for years. We're both chiropractors with a really strong bent in regenerative medicine, and just helping the body do what it's supposed to do, which is heal itself. But we are talking about what's going on right now in the world, and the fact that this is a pivotal point. It's a paradigm shift. People know they can't go to the doctor and get a medicine to handle this flu. And in a way, thank God, because
thank God,
make us think differently about how we take care of our body. We have all the power in our body to heal itself right now anyway. And what you and I and a lot of the people that we work with are trying to get our patients to understand is the body has the power to heal itself. It has this innate power. We're going to take a short break. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum with Dr. Mindy Pelz, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back. And this again, I have a really good friend of mine, Dr. Mindy Pelz, a chiropractor from San Jose, and I'm, of course, Dr. Duncan McCollum. This is Steppin' In Radio, and we're tackling the coronavirus with all of our limbs. We're going to just get this thing handled, how to rise above it. We're going to rise above this thing by letting our body do what it needs to do to heal. So go ahead, Dr. Pelz. Let's give these guys everything we got today.
Yeah, so what I've been telling my patients is that we can start to, when we go to put ourselves in action to support our immune system, they're what I call the immune basics. Then there are the immune boosters, and then there are the immune biohacks. So I've sort of categorized it into the three Bs. So the first set of immune basics are all free. You don't have to do anything. What you have to do is watch your diet. And we just talked about that. Take sugar out. Make sure you're not eating fake foods. Look at what you can do to add in more fermented foods, more plant-based foods, so you can feed your microbiome. And you can add in some intermittent fasting, get some ketones like we just talked about. Then the second part of the basic is get out in the sun. I know, like, I don't know what it's like in Santa Cruz right now, but in San Jose, it's not looking very sunny. But the minute the sun comes out, I am like going out and I'm going to get into the sun. That will energize your T cells, which go and fight your immune system. Sleep. Are you getting more sleep? You need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Movement. Are you getting out and moving around? And then the last one is the one that, again, I think we started this off with, is a positive mind. That there's some really cool research showing that they took law students and they saw that law students that were under more stress had a more suppressed immune system than law students that were optimistic. They had a stronger, what we call cell-mediated immune system, which is the immune system that fights viruses within the cells. So staying optimistic right now and leaning into those basics is crucial.
Yeah, I know some people, and even my patients, all they do is watch this news, and every channel has the same thing, and it's sensationalizing it. And we need to be, I guess, educated to a degree, but then we know what's going on. Get out, go have some fun. One of the things that I was interviewing a nurse patient of mine, Alicia, and she does laugh yoga. Now she teaches laugh yoga.
Oh, I love it.
About, when you laugh, and we know the serotonin, the dopamine, the oxytocin, all of those are released. So, it's actually just a good idea to laugh, and find something to laugh about, you know?
Yeah,
And
watch a funny movie. Go
yeah,
watch a comedian on say, you know what I sometimes I'll put on Ellen at the end of the day. It's really mindless listening, and she's funny, and she does funny things with people. It's
yeah.
super mindless. So yeah, find something that makes you laugh. That's so important.
Exactly. And, I mean, one thing that discipline that I know you do and I do in the mornings is we go through this process of just visualizing what we want to have happen, what's going on in our day and our life. And, we do these affirmations. It might kind of sound silly, but, quite honestly, if you start to create a future, it will evolve the way you want it to be.
Yep.
And what we want to have happen from this whole event is for every person to start to realize that their health it's up to them.
Yep.
There
It's
is,
our responsibility.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's something for us to if we go back and we look at the mechanistic point of view of healthcare that has been such a strong foundation of what we've been taught. In a mechanistic view, what we believe is that health comes from outside of us. So in a time like this, we go into fear because there is no outside thing that's going to help us. But if you make a decision right now that you don't have to give up the mechanistic, but what I would encourage you to do, and I know you're on the same thing, is if we can embrace the vitalistic point of health, where there is an intelligence inside of us, and we ask ourselves what we can do to enhance that, the fear goes away, and we can stay in a more optimistic point of, or an optimistic mindset.
right. And we were talking earlier about, what's going on with the foods and the toxins that we put into our body. Our cells are already so toxic. We have lots of things that are poisoning our system. And if we think about the health pyramid, we have physical on one side, chemical on the other, and mental on the bottom. And we've
Yep.
been kind of talking about that. So the physical we've addressed. We know that if you get one adjustment a week, specific adjustment in the upper cervical, which most chiropractors know how to do and understand this, it's going to boost your immune system by 48%.
Yep.
Also, so what we're doing is we're adjusting people's upper cervical and their thoracic. We're doing both of those because we want to boost the immune system as much as we can. Then we talked about the chemical side, what we're putting into our body, the foods that we're putting into our body, and some of that, alcohol too, by the way, it turns to sugar, and it can actually weaken your immune system as well. And so this is a good time to go through your medicine cabinet, maybe, and throw out the junk. I mean,
Yep.
This is kind of an emergency thing we're dealing with, but our goal is for you to start to really rethink everything about what you're putting in your body, on your body, and what you're thinking. Because the bottom one is the mental. And I always say, if you got to fire your boss, fire your boss.
Yeah, that's called decapitation, huh? Yeah, I think that's really important for your listeners is just stop and ask yourself, are the habits that I am doing right now supporting an intelligent side of me? What if I came to your house and I plopped in your front door, opened up your front door, and I put in the wisest doctor on the planet, and I said, this doctor's got it handled. You just need to take amazing care of this doctor. You got to feed this doctor. You got to make sure this doctor gets some sleep. You got to be kind to this doctor. And if you do that, you're never going to get the symptom of the coronavirus. So if I put that wise doctor into your house, how amazing would you take care of that guest in your house? Well, guess what? I don't need to put that doctor in your house. You already have that doctor inside of you. So all you've got to do is take amazing care of that doctor. That's it. It's that simple.
Boy, you're giving me goosebumps again. This is great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So the question is, as far as the average person, and nobody's average, but the people out there, nobody's ever told them how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like if you unfortunately, the fact that we take 70% of all the pharmaceutical drugs in the world, and we're still rated 50th in the world, and we're only 4% of the population. What we've been taught is to take a drug, go to the medicine cabinet when you don't feel well. So the thing is, it's so hard for people to change. And they've been taught this kind of dogmatic principle, which mechanistic is what you call it, right? It's
Yeah.
like you get sick, you take a pill. You get another sick, you take another pill. I had a gentleman in today, new patient. He's on 5 medications for diabetes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nothing is going to handle his diabetes when all he's doing is taking a drug to cover up the symptoms. So, not to lose my point, what we really want to do is figure out, we want to teach people how to take care of that incredible doctor that you just put in their
Yeah.
house. Where do they start?
Yeah. Well, so again, I think we start with the immune basics, what I mentioned. Make sure you're doing that. So go back and make a checklist and ask yourself, what am I eating? Is it supporting me? Is it live food? Is it fake food? Like, look at what you're eating. Look at how many hours of sleep. Look at the sun, the movement, and your attitude. Those 5 things. Then we can move into, okay, if I really want to amp up this doctor inside of me, what about putting in some immune boosters? And to me, those are supplements and chiropractic. This is where those two come into play. We've discussed chiropractic at to great lengths here. If you're not seeing a chiropractor, now's the time. This is what happened in 1918, is that the people that were scared and they didn't want to die and they didn't like the medical approach, they went to chiropractors and they thrived. So now is the time to get to a chiropractor. The other thing is, we know things like megadosing vitamin C, we know vitamin D, zinc, and things like echinacea. Those are all fabulous supplements that you can be giving yourself to boost your immunity. I just did a video on vitamin C on my YouTube channel that people are loving, about how much do you dose and what is the science behind megadosing. But there's
Right.
a reason that Linus Pauling and his teachings became so popular.
Yeah, Linus Pauling was taking something like 10 to 15,000 milligrams a day, right?
And I've been down a rabbit hole of research on this for my patients. 18,000 a day,
Yeah,
milligrams.
18,000. And all the medical doctors at the time were saying, don't do it. He lived to be 94, and the average medical doctor lived to be in their 50s.
Yep.
So,
No. Yeah.
Linus wasn't doing it right. But
Yeah.
So literally, and the way to dose it, if you want to, is take it until you get the runs and then back off.
Yep.
That's
Yes,
the way you titrate it.
Yeah, and we're not saying go take 18,000. You might never. Well, you're not going to be leaving the house anyways. But you want to work yourself up to it. So some of the science that I saw showed that 6 grams a day, that's 6,000, and you want to take 1,000 at a time. So you start off with 6 grams a day, and if you get runny, you get a lot of loose stools, then you're going to want to back off by 1,000 until your stools are firm.
Yeah, and then and don't get ascorbic acid. Get the real thing.
Get high quality. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
Vitamin D, we should talk about that too. Make sure it's D3.
Yep.
And you can take, when you're afflicted, they say you can take up to 20,000 IU on a short-term basis.
Yeah.
And my thought is you take about 8,000 IU a day would be a fairly safe dose to just kind of help because it acts like a hormone too. But what amount are you telling people?
Well, I'm a big fan of systemic formulas, and so we're using DV3.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that systemic does that other supplements don't do is that they combine them with herbs and different bioenergetics, so that when you take it, it actually gets into the cell. And with vitamin D, we're seeing this very clearly on pre and post tests. So I want to say there's about 1,200 milligrams of vitamin D. So I've been telling people to take 4 of those a day. So that would be about 6,000. And then it also
that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
I love that supplement too.
Yeah, K2. It also has K2 in it. So when you combine D3 with K2, it's a very good situation.
Yeah.
So
and then also, so we're talking about the different vitamins, and zinc is a really good immune booster, especially for virus.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and I haven't really totally dove into to zinc as much, but it's definitely, when I researched this a couple of weeks ago, I really wanted to dive in and understand what the top nutrients were, and zinc kept coming up for colds, the common cold, which is more viral than actually bacterial. So.
Yeah. And then another thing we should talk about is what other things to eat. Obviously eating very healthy oils,
Yeah.
The cell walls are made up of these apparent omega-6 oils, like 35% of the cell walls made up of very healthy oils. And life is the cell. You know, I mean, if we didn't have cells, we wouldn't be here. So our whole existence is 75 trillion to 100 trillion human cells that are made up. They have a door, or they have a shield around them called the cell wall. And if that cell wall is broken down and crispy and polluted, which is why we have 81 million Americans with multiple chronic diseases in this country,
right,
then again, you can try to do the short-term stuff that we're recommending, but those cell walls, you're going to have to start to learn how to get those cell walls healthy. But you can start by eating healthy oils right now, like coconut oil, avocado oil, nut oils. Olive oil is good, but it's kind of a neutral oil, right?
Right. Yeah, it is neutral. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. So let's go to what cell-mediated immunity is.
Yeah.
Cell-mediated immunity means that when a virus comes into the cell, that there's a system within the cell to fight that virus. So whereas a humoral immunity tends to be more outside the cell, that's more like antibiotics tend to be focused more on trying to get antibodies to fight things outside the cell. So if we come back and look to the basics of the cell, the number one thing you got to have in order for that cell to be able to be healthy and fight a virus is you've got to have that membrane. That outer membrane has to be healthy. And if you're eating bad oils, you are going to have an inflamed membrane that is going to make that cell sick. So I agree, eating the right oils right now, getting off the canola oil, the safflower oil, the sunflower oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, those are all causing congestion within your cell and is going to make it so a virus can take over that cell and can attack it and destroy it, and you're going to have more symptoms of this virus. So you really need to get the bad oils out and add the good oils in.
Yeah, and one thing that we were talking about with our mastermind think group about, the fact is, if you go out and you eat at a restaurant and you get these bad oils in your body, I mean, I was blown away that those oils get into the cell wall and stay there for 130 days.
Oh, really long time, yeah. Which is a bummer because I love sweet potato fries, but I now have to make them at home.
I know. So it's crazy. But here's the deal, and I want everybody to understand this. What happened after World War II, basically, is we were able to eat what we wanted, when we want, as much as we want, with whoever we want, anytime we wanted. And when I was a kid, though, really, we had desserts on Sundays. That was it. But now, after a couple generations of being able to eat whatever we want in abundance, our bugs in our gut, called the microbiome, which we should probably address a little bit.
Yeah, we should.
Have gotten really lazy. They've become ineffective, in fact, harmful to our body. And one of the reasons that our immune systems are so weak, and all the new research is pointing to, you want to be healthy? We've been talking about keeping us healthy, but we got to go to the even one step further. We got to fix the microbiome in order to really get healthy. And that's going to take a while. We're doing intermediate steps right now to help with the coronavirus to get our immune system up. But really what we want to do is step back and go, here's what's going to happen, I believe, and you believe, out of this whole thing. We'll never be the same. So many people are going to realize it's up to me regarding my health, and they're going to be searching for the information that we want to provide, which is, let's get the junk out of your body. Let's stop putting more junk in our body. Now, how do we fix this thing that is our interface to the world, which is our microbiome?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we could do a whole talk on the microbiome. And, just so we keep people focused, you've heard so far, get off sugar, change your oils. Now let's talk about your microbiome. So when we're looking at diet, let's
take a break, Mindy. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come right back to talking about the microbiome. All right, we are back, and this is Stepping In. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I have the amazing Dr. Mindy Pelz with me, and we're having a lot of fun.
We are.
and we're building up our immune system by having fun, talking to you all out there about how you can build up your immune system, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually it's cathartic, I feel like, to talk about solutions right now, because so many people are living in fear, and it just feels good to listen to solutions, to talk about solutions, because we're all in a better place if we move the conversation to solutions.
Absolutely. And like right before the break, and some of you might have just joined us, we are talking about, we've gone over, what to put in your body, what not to put into your body. And now we're going to talk about what keeps our body healthy. And I think it's important to talk about the microbiome for a little bit, because
Yeah,
they are,
yeah.
and a good friend of ours, Dr. Shane Morris, we were at your function that you had him talk at in San
Mm-hmm.
Jose, he was saying that for every one human cell, and there's like, let's say 100 trillion of them, it keeps going back and forth, there's like I don't know, 1,000 times that more microbiome to every one human cell.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we've debated this. My husband and I both love research, and we've debated like how many human to bacterial. And I think the bottom line is nobody really knows, but they're basically saying that like we're only about 10-20% human cells. We're a lot more bacteria than we are human, and that these bacterial cells run us. Now, the other debate is how many of these bacteria do we have inside of us? And they say that it's anywhere, and this is science that we can find, anywhere from 1,000 to 6,500 different species of bacteria that are all favorable. These are good bacteria. So again, I don't, depending if you have listened to this conversation all the way through, if we go back and we look at when we hit this mechanistic point of view with healthcare, where everything around our health had to come from the outside in, and that we had to kill things, we forgot about these 6,500 potentially helpful bacteria. And we also forgot to tell you that it's really important you feed these guys. So just like the doctor that I'm going to drop in your house, I'm going to drop a pet in there too. And this pet is going to give you so much joy. It's going to give you so much energy. It's going to keep your immune system up. That just, you got to keep the pet alive. And that pet is your microbiome, and you've got to feed it. And you feed it with plants and fermented foods. That's it.
Wow, that's so important. I just think about that. What if you had a pet and all you did was kick it every time you came
Right.
home? You
Or
think
you're
that
like
pet's going to take care of
closed
you?
it off. Yeah. It'd
It's
be
going to bite you.
angry, right? It'd be angry. That pet is living inside of you, literally a living organism inside of you. It wants to support your immune system. It wants to make neurotransmitters that make you happy and calm your brain. You just haven't been feeding it. So it's barely alive.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I always think about the two brothers who invented the microscope. I think it's the Jensen brothers, something
Okay.
like that. Can you imagine? They get this microscope and then they look in there and they put a drop of water in there and they see something moving. And they go, kill it,
Right.
And we've been trying to kill the microorganism ever since the invention of the microscope.
Yeah.
We never will. I mean, we'll never win against
Yeah.
it. All we're doing is hurting ourselves by not understanding it and working with it. And
Yep.
we are now learning how to work with our microbiome, get rid of the bad ones. We know how to do it. It's not hard. We teach
Yep.
that in our Stenomic workshop or my cellular healing lifestyle workshop. Within 7 weeks, you can do a huge amount of getting rid of the bad microbiome and feed the good ones.
Yeah, I heard a beautiful statement from a man named Keith Bell, and he has an incredible Facebook page and website you should really check out called The Gut Club. And I interviewed him on my podcast and on my YouTube channel, and he said, you cannot kill your way to good health. And right? I'm like,
wow.
there has never been a more powerful statement, and especially right now.
That's right. So, I'm going to change the subject for a minute, because you and I, again, this is Dr. Mindy Pelz, I'm Dr. Duncan McCollum, and we've been talking about the coronavirus and, what you can do about it. And this show, you can get back on KSCO and go to the archives. This is Stepping In, and you can listen to it again if you want to copy it and send it to people. Please feel free to, because we want to really help as many people as we can, because this information, it's not out there. People aren't getting this information.
Yep.
But Mindy and I just spent 3 or 4 days out in Washington, D.C. together. We have a publisher in common, an amazing publishing group, and we are both in the midst of publishing these amazing books. And why don't you tell us about your book, Mindy?
Yeah, so my book is called The Menopause Reset, and it was really out of my own journey with my menopause journey. So I'm 50 right now, and when I turned 40, I was in the best health of my life. But the thing that I didn't account for was, and I didn't realize at that point in time, was that my hormones were about to take a massive decline, as all women. You know, around 40, your ovaries pretty much start to get to a place where they're not working, they're not making estrogen, they're not making progesterone, and I didn't change my lifestyle to adapt to these declining hormones. And so I ended up with the classic menopause symptoms: hot flashes, memory loss, irritability, anxiety, depression, things that at levels that I had never experienced in my entire life. So I spent my entire 40s coming up with 5 things that every menopausal woman needs to do in her lifestyle to be able to weather this storm and come out of her menopause journey a healthier person. So it's very much like what we're talking about today, is that I always come back to lifestyle. And I thought I was living a great lifestyle, but I didn't really take into account these declining hormones. So I went through a process of 5 different things, and that's what I map out in my book.
Wow, that's amazing. And, I know that when you take a look at a male or female body, I mean, we all go through certain changes in our life. And, I know that I'm sure you talk about this in your book, because one of the things is, if your body cannot even hear or see the hormones, it doesn't matter how many you put in your body,
No.
it's going to only make you sicker.
Right. Well, and it's kind of the same thought. I just had this as your story. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought about this. It's just like the immune system. We can start to vaccinate the junk out of our bodies. We can start to medicate the crap out of our bodies. But if you're already compromised, if those cells are inflamed, if that immune system is down, it is never going to be the total solution. And it's the same thing with the hormones. It's that mechanistic outside in doesn't work. You've got to get those cells sensitive to hormones again. And that's what lifestyle does.
Yeah, absolutely. And back many years ago, when they introduced, the Premarin, the pregnant mare's urine, and all that stuff to women, you would turn 40, they would give you, every woman got Premarin at 40. It didn't matter if you already had too much estrogen, not enough estrogen, or just the right amount.
Everybody got it. Yep.
And everybody got it, and it was carcinogenic, as we know now. And the women that already had too much estrogen, it just threw them over the roof.
Yep.
And maybe the ones with none, it might have helped, who are very low, but the ones with normal got too much as well. So what do you do? And I don't want to steal the thunder of your group, but you do some testing to really assess, and it's not just the hormones, but some of the other tests that you would do to find out if you can help a woman redirect her life so that she can handle this part of her life.
Yeah. So for starters, every woman should do a Dutch hormone test. You can go to our website, drmindipelz.com, and figure out how to order one, and we'll send it to you and review it for you and give you an update on what it says. So a Dutch test will tell you all your sex hormones. It will tell you all of your adrenal, like if you're secreting cortisol, it'll tell you what your estrogen metabolites are, which is really important because your liver and your gut breaks estrogen down. And you can break down the toxic estrogen, and that can be you can have too much toxic estrogen that leads to breast cancer and to ovarian cancer, which is why the hormone HRT is dangerous, or it can be dangerous, because you can break this estrogen down into very toxic stuff. And that was what they found back when Premarin was so prevalent. So Dutch test is a great one. It'll tell you if you're methylating. It'll tell you if you have melatonin, if you can sleep. I mean, there's so much this test will tell us. So yeah, go ahead. I know you've done some hormone testing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the Dutch test is phenomenal, all of the different things you can find out, because you're going to be able to direct your patients on what supplements to take or not take. Yep. But I think also, I know you, and I know that what you're going to try to do is make people not dependent on that stuff, but
Oh,
teach
yeah.
them how to get their bodies
Yep.
ready and their cells healthy so that they're not dependent on a medication or even a supplement for the rest
Yeah.
of their life.
Well, and you know, that's my big cry to women, is that if we don't change our lifestyle in our 40s, we have disease coming to us after 50.
Yeah.
So because hormones are protective. So change your lifestyle in 40 so that you don't build disease. Now, for the postmenopausal woman, it's not too late. You can change your lifestyle and start to course correct. So the goal with a test like the Dutch test is not to get you on medication. The goal is to look at what organs need to be supported and how you can change your lifestyle. Very similar to like sciatica, right? The goal with sciatica is not to throw a bunch of herbal supplements at it, or to throw the TRT machine or chiropractic at it. Those are all just ways of removing interference so that the body doesn't have to keep giving pain signals. It's the same thing with hormones. We balance hormones by helping the intelligence out. And that's, again, it's just like immune system. It's just like what we're learning with our immune system, and that we have to keep looking at going back to the inner body.
Yeah, no, that's it, you know. And one thing that you're talking about too, and you mentioned the liver and the large intestine, right?
Yep.
And I've always tried to come up with a way for people to understand what the liver, when it gets plugged, is like. Now, everybody knows what happens when your vacuum has a plugged filter on it. You can keep vacuuming, but and I have to laugh because I have to teach my staff how to clean the vacuum. I don't know what the story is here, you know, but I have to teach them how to take that thing out, wash it, and clean it. And if we've never been able to fix our livers, it doesn't matter, again, how many hormones you give it. You got to learn how to do that. I know that you address that in your book.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter on, I call it opening detox pathways. It doesn't make sense to empty the kitchen trash out into the driveway trash that's already over full. It's kind of like your vacuum analogy.
Yeah, and you know, just for anybody that's just tuned in, this is Dr. Mindy Pelz and Dr. Duncan McCollum stepping in radio, and we've been talking about the coronavirus and things that you can do, and I highly recommend you go back. We can maybe summarize it at the end here. But as we're talking about, you know, balancing female hormones, and what's the name of your book again?
It's called The Menopause Reset.
And when's it coming out?
April 7th, the Kindle version will be out. Same time as your book, right? So we're both, I mean, it's
I should have known that, huh?
It's an interesting experience.
And I'm excited about it because there's so many of my patients in that age group that really, you know, it's like you can't specialize in everything. And I'm so glad to know you that I can be able to refer people.
Yeah, thank you. Vice versa. Yeah. And which leads me to, you need to talk about, I'm sure you've talked about this on your radio show, but that TRT machine is incredible. And you've got a whole new approach to sciatica that nobody's talking about.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing. In fact, I've talked about the TRT machine so much on the show, and people come in all the time, and we always have a $49 special to check it out. But what's happened is, because I've had it since September, I've done hundreds of treatments, and what I've found is people that were, in the old days, we'd adjust somebody, they get well. But then they started to get so toxic and so toxic and so toxic that the inflammation in the body from the foods that we've talked about, the poisons and toxins, there's 84 or 87,000 chemicals put in the environment since the turn of the 19th century or whatever, 20th century. And the body's so inflamed that an adjustment doesn't work as much as it used to.
That's right.
Which is why people like you and I have branched over to, let's detoxify the body.
Yep.
And I've had one gentleman get off 40 Advil a week.
Oh, I believe it.
40 Advil a week just by changing his diet.
Yeah.
But now with the stem cell machine, which was coined the stem cell machine by the doctor's show, it's called the tissue regenerative therapy machine. It's a whole new ball game. When we have people come in, we always do an exam and x-rays to find out what's happening, make sure I can help them. Then we do the TRT machine on them, which is going to help restore the function of the body and pull stem cells from out of hiding and take them to the damaged area. Because a stem cell is basically, it's like putting an egg and a sperm together. That cell can become anything from an eyeball to a toe to a kidney.
So
And when
cool.
we use this machine on a certain part of the body, it's going to attract your dormant stem cells to that area. And then they look around and go, hey, what do you want to do, Joe? I don't know. I'll be the shoulder cell. I'll be the muscle. You be the ligament. And then they go and repair the body.
So cool.
But the
Yeah.
trifecta has been amazing. And the results that we've been getting, I mean, I'll just tell you one story. This gentleman named John, who's probably listening, he's a Vietnam vet. He came to one of my cellular healing lifestyle classes, which I'm starting again this week. Anybody wants to find out about it, just call our office. Every time he would get up, it was painful to watch him try to get out of the chair. And finally, after about 3 or 4 weeks, I said to he and his wife, why don't you let me take a look at your spine? And he had a scar on his back, 4 inches, that was still pink from a surgery he'd had 2 years earlier for his low back. And he'd been in pain for 5 years. So he could barely walk, could barely move. I did an evaluation, determined that the TRT machine would be the right thing to do. We did one treatment on his back, and he got up and literally, he started throwing the F-bomb everywhere. He could not believe that he was finally out of pain.
Yeah.
Then I did his knees. But to make it a shorter story, they came in the next week and they walk on what we call East Cliff here, which is all the way along the coast. And usually they'd start together and his wife would go all the way to the end and turn around and meet him about 4 steps from where she left him because he's sitting on the bench. Well, she turned around and he's right behind her.
He's following her. I love it.
Goes, what's wrong? Do you have to bring the car up here? Who's hurt? He goes, no, I've been walking. And that was with one treatment. Now, not everybody's going to get that, but my point is that it got me to a point where I realized that what we have here with the TRT machine, with the cellular healing lifestyle that we're teaching, with the detoxification, getting the heavy metals out that we should talk about another time. Yeah. And then chiropractic can do what it's always supposed to do.
It's meant to do. Yep. Yeah, and I had the same experience with chiropractic as, you've been in practice. I've been in practice 23 years. You've been in practice like 30 some, right?
Yeah.
And when we were first in practice, we would just adjust people and people got well. That doesn't happen anymore. It rarely happens. So you and I both went searching for why is the human body not healing? And that's where things like your TRT machine is like a true reset. You can get in there and reset that. It's also where things like diet become so critical and detox. Like we have people in my clinic where all of a sudden they'll have some chronic pain. It's not going away. We measure their heavy metals and their lead is off the charts.
Wow.
Lead will irritate nerves. It can create neuropathy. And yet, again, nobody's talking about this. It's like we are living in a different time. The coronavirus is showing us that these viruses are stronger than ever, but we have to change the human body. We have to support the human body to meet the modern day life that we're in right now. And if you don't, it could be anything from sciatica to massive menopause symptoms to the coronavirus that is going to throw you off track.
Yeah. Hey, Mindy, we are running out of time here and we got to do this again. It's so much fun.
I love it.
Dr. Mindy Pelz, how do people find you?
Yeah, you can go a couple ways. You can go to drmindipelz.com. I have a free copy of my book that I'm giving away, so that on my page there you'll find that. You can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm putting out 3 videos a week about all different kinds of topics. Or if you're in San Jose, just find my clinic. It's Family Life Wellness Center.
Yeah. Amazing. And you are such a great friend and such an amazing doctor.
You too.
I'm so glad to be as close as I am with you these
days. I love you. Agreed.
We're having a blast. And
we are.
Duncan McCollum, and this is Stepping In, and we are running out of time. So everybody have a great afternoon and look us up and do something about your